Well, here we are getting into the newspapers this morning and a lot more, but we'll save it for later. So many things we're going to be digesting, but let me start by saying a very good morning to Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleimana Brima. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Ben, and thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure having you, actually. So right before we get into the newspapers, there are some topical matters that have come up. And one of them, I'd like to quickly engage the two of you. You together with Dr. Adam Bona, security analyst on it. And with your permission, Suleimana, I'll start with Adam on this beat. It simply has to do with the state of our security or insecurity. We've all been concerned about insurgency in the sub-region, terrorist attacks and more. And the last we were told, it had come to our very doorstep, 5 kilometers from Ghana. Well, my colleague MF Apawu had an interaction yesterday with the defense minister, and he said that considering all that is happening, Ghana needs to tighten its security, and that all is not well. But tightening security, Mr. Defense Minister, I thought that was your role. So if you're telling us that, then where are we headed? And all is not well. Dr. Adam Bona, a very good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning to you, Ben, and then good morning to Suleimana on the other side.
Right. What is your reaction to these comments from the Defense Minister?
Well, Ben, and good morning to your viewers. I am not surprised, because if you look at how porous our borders are, and also the fact that after this terror attacks in neighboring Togo, which is just a stone throw from Ghana, we haven't seen any states of heightened, alertness. In other places, the state of alertness would have been heightened by now. The whole country would have pushed probably a notch higher than we are doing. But if 5 kilometers or less than 10 kilometers, usually anything, less than 10 kilometers, you want to ensure that you protect yourself. Citizens are cautioned to be wary of bad people. Emergency numbers or hotlines are shared around. Border communities should have by now been, informed. But unfortunately, that hasn't been done. What I have seen is a press release or a statement put out by the National Security cautioning mosques and, what's the name? Religious facilities.
Right.
And I think that, that is some information put out there, but that is woefully inadequate, because then the modus of these terrorists keeps shifting. They have attacked schools, they have attacked churches, mosques, marketplaces. They have attacked, those who are on transit, those who are, moving into call it state in other countries. And so as far as I'm concerned, it looks like nothing really has happened. Nothing has happened. Technically, Togo is in Ghana. And so for us to...
When you say technically Togo is in Ghana, what do you mean?
And what I mean is that there are people around the borders in between Ghana and Togo who don't actually know when, at what point they've entered into the territory of Togo and at what point they've entered into the territory of Ghana. If you go to Hamele, Aflao, Elugo, and other countries, you technically have farmers who have their farms stretching from Ghana into Togo, or maybe from Togo into Ghana. You go to Burkina, it's the same. Cote d'Ivoire, it's the same. And so mine is that if this thing happens in Togo, look at how dastardly, this whole thing took place or happened. And unfortunately, we haven't been well informed. And so for me, what the defense minister said, even though I arrived, yesterday, I haven't been around, but if what do you call it? What the defense minister, if what the defense minister is saying in anything to go by, then I will tell you that I am not surprised, because then we seem to have put something in place. But I will tell you that it is nowhere near where we'll be able to deal with, terrorists who might take advantage of us.
Right. So, Dr. Bona, just moving the conversation forward briefly before we let go of you. So this is the situation. For me, it doesn't give me much comfort. It is not even cold comfort as a citizen. And another cause for worry is the fact that we don't have experience in dealing with insurgency. Burkina Faso and other countries, Mali and others, they have experience dealing with these. We don't, which means that if we don't get the right security infrastructure in place, it could be, to put it mildly, disastrous before we catch up. So what then do we do?
Well, what we need to do, some of us have been pontificating. We have been talking about it for a very long time. And as we speak, even in my intro, I mentioned to you, so Ben and viewers who are watching us, tell me, if I saw someone who is wearing baggy clothes that looks like he's carrying some ammo, he's carrying some AK-47s and some, call them ammunitions, and crossing the border, who do I talk to? Which number do I call? Do I call the local police station, who might not be able to deal with it? And so we have not put in information that would help, the citizens help fight terrorism if it has to come onto our soil. This is the worry. Secondly, as we speak, even when there is an accident in our major highways, okay, nations have learned after 9/11. 9/11, it came out to be one of the baddest for the American emergency agencies, including the security, because then they were largely uncoordinated. Today, as we speak, we seem to have, agencies that are supposed to be coordinating this. But unfortunately, when there is even an accident on our highways, usually the police will get there, only to realize that there is a mangled vehicle, people are trapped. Then they call the fire service. Fire service gets there. Sometimes they don't even have the, the machinery to cut through, and the grinding machines to cut through and free people, only for them to realize that people are bleeding so badly. So they have to call an ambulance. The ambulance, whether it will come or not. And so, as far as I'm concerned, even for things such as accidents, we have largely not been coordinated enough. And so when it comes to terrorism, you need not the security agencies' response alone. You need citizens' response, including the security services. If citizens are not involved in fighting terror in any country, it never works. Once the citizens are not involved, but as we speak, the citizens are not involved. Go to most of these churches, the national security issued information, most of these, religious facilities.
Right.
Ask me whether they have security policies. When I say security policies, not one that you go and you copy something. When was the last time most of these churches engaged, any security person, someone who is trained enough to, scan around and tell them that do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. They don't have it.
So in my parish, Dr. Bona, I have noticed that in recent weeks, if not over a month, there's always a police presence. There's a patrol vehicle, even in the course of the week and all of that. I see a few things happening, but is that enough? And in that directive, to wrap with you, in that directive from the National Security Ministry when it comes to places of worship, in fact, quoting the coordinating director, it says, in view of growing threats of terrorism from the sub-region and the expansionist drive of terrorist groups towards coastal West African states with a renewed modus operandi of targeting public gatherings, including places of worship, it is imperative that perceptional measures are taken by all stakeholders. Are you seeing these perceptional measures? What are they? And I mean, what more can we be doing? Well,
what more we should be doing, if I go to probably one of the biggest church or one of the biggest mosques today, I'm likely to walk through, whether you know how these things are done.
Right.
And so what more we should be doing should have been to begin to put in measures in most of these places. And it should have been, we should have generalized it in a way that, tell citizens that, you know what, it looks like we are closer to something like a disaster if we don't sit up. And therefore, these are the processes when you have to go into, let's say, a big mall, one of the big malls in this country, go to some of our malls in this country. You could just walk through, I have attempted mystery shopping, left things, later on went to pick them, and the security officers didn't even know what has happened. I'm telling you, they didn't know what has happened.
So that is to say that if you had left, let's say, a bomb, so to speak, like some of these terrorists operate, some explosives, no one would have noticed you. You would have left it there. There would have been an explosion, God forbid, and no one would have even noticed anything.
Yes. I bought an item from one shop, walked into another shop at one of the biggest malls, left it in one of the shelves, walked out. In coming back, I told the guy that, I left something and I forgot to pick something I bought from the other shop. He only said, okay. They didn't even walk me to go look at what I left and to tell me that you shouldn't have left it. And so what I'm telling you is that when you recruit security people who are largely watchmen, who have no intelligence, who walk around, who at the end of the day, you haven't given them any training, and you say, people should probably put in measures. What measures are they putting in when the measures does not involve human beings? When I say it doesn't involve human beings, how many of our citizens who are supposed to even be providing security, including sometimes even the police themselves, including the military and the national security, you can mention them. How many of them are trained to deal with terrorism and to spot terrorists in a way and analyze it and say, this is how we deal with it? It is, probably trying to do something that would symbolize something. But I must be honest with you, Ben.
Right.
It's too close for comfort. And I would have wished that as we speak to you, maybe this morning, you guys they would have shared some information with you, some tidbits about what to do, what not to do in all the languages. Across this country, we have radio stations and, TV stations. Let's begin to get people more educated on what to do. But if we see terrorism to be just, looking for security solution for terrorism alone, when I mean those in uniform dealing with terrorism, who tells you that the terrorists who are striking, didn't they kill military officers or so in Cote d'Ivoire?
Yeah.
Sorry, what's the name? In Togo recently. They killed military officers. It tells you that they have become more daring, and so they are calling the bluff of the West African security agencies, calling their bluff and attacking them and killing them left and right. For Burkina, it's happening in Burkina, and that is what has led to a lot of the coups we are seeing, because the military are taking over because they think that the government is not putting in resources. So we need to brace ourselves for, what do you call it, something that probably I will not be able to put out.
Doc, we're grateful for your time, but just give me a yes or no answer to this. I just quickly need to know. So in terms of the security in these religious institutions, should it be the state coordinating this and saying, put in place X, Y, Z? Churches, mosques, other religious groupings, do this at your places of gathering. Yes or no? Just give me a yes or no answer, or maybe in 10 seconds.
Yes.
So the state should tell them what to do.
Because, yes, it is the responsibility of the state, because these facilities are supposed to be public spaces or public places. And so you have a place where there is large gathering. If anything happens, it is on the government of this country or the leadership of this country. And so they would have to, around this time, facilities that are not fit for purpose, that cannot stand the test of this time, should be closed down. That way, we are going to be reducing, the number of people, the number of places where you have large gathering, because these are not ordinary times. And so, if you have a facility that could take, let's say, 5,000 people at a time, and that facility is refusing to go by what the state is asking them to do, you close it down. In any case, during COVID, the president will only come on TV and tell us that by midnight so and so we should all sleep. And, we didn't have to go out. And so I think that They should put in measures. I'm not saying close down churches and mosques, but give them, some guidelines and ask them to follow it. If you don't follow it and we notice you are not following it, we will come and close you down. Other countries have done it. Why can't we do it?
Dr. Adam Bonner, thank you so much. We're really grateful. This was short notice. I had to say this. We're really grateful you took the time to join us, sir. And do have a good day.
Same to you.
That was Dr. Adam Bonner sharing his thoughts with us on those most recent comments. We know about the insurgency in the sub-region, but this is the latest. The defense minister says these are tricky times and we really ought to, all is not well. That is what he says. Suleimana, I want to start from there with you, Mr. Brima. Your take. You would have to unmute, please.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I think that we cannot but admit that we are in critical times. We are surrounded by Burkina Faso, Togo, and Cote d'Ivoire. And on top of that, we have Mali, Niger, and all those Sahel countries. And they are all going through some difficult times in terms of these fundamentalist and terrorist activities. As a country, I think that over the years, it would be inappropriate to suggest that we as a country have not been taking steps towards mitigating whatever risks there may be in terms of these terrorist activities. I know that our security agencies on day-to-day are going through various forms of trainings. I know national security has been taking a lot of steps towards dealing with these issues. The fact is that we cannot and never prepare enough. These are unfolding situations, and this is an unfolding situation. The dynamics change every day, and therefore we have to keep preparing, we have to keep updating ourselves. And I believe, as Dr. Bonner said, what's also critical is the public education. And I think that is where we need to do more and more of, particularly educating the most at-risk communities and the communities that are quite vulnerable, particularly at the border towns, in the north, in the western corridor, in the eastern corridor, and all of those. But if you look at a development like what is happening in Boku, in the Upper East region, sometimes it gives me worry that if an internal conflict that is a bit conventional, and conventional in that so far we haven't had a situation where somebody is deploying a bomb and committing suicide bombing and all of that. So these are people who are acting and would want to be secure whilst they inflict casualties on the other side. And yet for almost 5 months now, we have been battling. We impose curfews, we impose restrictions like no motorbikes, no wearing of smokes, and so on. And yet, despite the curfew, despite no riding of motorbikes, despite no wearing of smokes and all of that, once in a while we hear, oh, there is sporadic gunshots, 2 people have been killed, 1 person has been killed, and so on. Then how do we then deal with a situation of terrorism or terrorist act if we were to ever, unfortunately, get into such a situation? And I think some of these developments in places like Boku are things that have to be nipped in the bud as quickly as possible. First of all, to show how prepared we are to deal with acts of instability, but also to send a strong message to fundamentalist groups or terrorist groups who may be lurking in the border towns around Upper East and the Boku area, that, well, Ghana is ready and prepared. But given what is happening, I think that it somehow would give confidence to those nefarious people to think that, look, if they are struggling to deal with this incident, then we can easily attack and then either go scot-free and so on and so forth.
We all ought to watch our backs and we all ought to be alert. You see anything that is irregular, anything that is suspicious, I think you ought to start reaching out to the police, because you never know, especially along the border lines. We never know. And no one wants any such thing to happen in this country, because once it starts, it gets very problematic. We pray for Ghana. The Ghanaian Times also continues on that, with that trend. Threat to security, national security warns churches. I've already given you some snippets of that. Pictured there, Mr. Kandapa, Sector Minister. But a quick one for you, Suleimana. Saturday downpour, parts of Accra flood again. And I'm sure you've grown tired of hearing of such stories. From the Kanishi area to different parts of the country, to even police quarters. It was not a joke. And I just think sometimes it didn't rain for so long. And this was the impact. I saw videos where people literally had to team up, about 20, 30 people, and then, form a circle sort of, or form a column so they could go through the water. Because if you went alone, you could get carried away in the 21st century.
Well, I think it's really unfortunate, and it proves the extent to which we are unprepared, the extent to which we have been so indisciplined over the years. And that's why I'm quite happy with the current regional minister we have, the Greater Accra Regional Minister, and the effort he's making to ensure that there is discipline, cleanliness is adhered to, and then, of course, people follow the laws. I think part of the problem has been that over the years, we have just abandoned rule of law, and people are building anywhere. Structures are being erected on waterways, and for the sake of individual benefits, we allow these things to prevail until such a time that there is a disaster. And I believe that if we all support the activities of the regional minister in terms of ensuring discipline, in terms of making sure that we, within our own communities, we do what is necessary, I believe we gradually will be able to overcome the challenge of flooding in our capital. Otherwise, the way things are going, if we don't take action now, we would, one day have a very, very devastating situation. And that perhaps would not be too long from now.
Staying on that beat, there are other stories, but the one I'll highlight from the Daily Graphic would dovetail into just what you said, the lack of discipline. But let me look at the other surrounding stories. Dasibre Otibuating laid to rest. That's on pages 24 and 57 of the newspaper. Colleges of Education hostel projects start June 1. Nation spends $230 million on injuries. Dollars, I mean. Dr. Ofori-Buedu discloses 4 die daily from trauma. But what I want us to focus on the Daily Graphic, I wish we could zoom in further. Right here. You would see a vehicle piled to the very top, to the very limit, with all kinds of things. Now, this vehicle is askew already. It is tilting towards its right. Anything could happen at any moment. It could crash that taxi passing right by it. And we all look on unconcerned. I remember, Suleimana, I will never forget, heading towards the La Paz junction, moving forward, in fact, towards Achimota. There was this time when I saw a vehicle piled with wood. It was just like this, askew, turned, slanting towards one end, piled with wood to the hilt. MTTD officers were on the side. This vehicle came and passed, and at a point, so I stopped and alerted them that, hey, should this vehicle, like the way it is, should it be on the road? I didn't get any positive answer. Who knows what could have happened that day if maybe God had not intervened. So it dovetails into what you're saying about indiscipline. I mean, everybody can do anything and get away with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think, yes, the acts of indiscipline, lack of enforcement of the law, and it appears that because of money, anything goes. And it cuts across literally every spectrum of society, from road users to market people to civil servants, public servants, private operators, to our politics. It appears that so long as it's about making money, it is fine. You can put up your structure anywhere. So long as it's about making money, you can load your vehicle and ply on the road just at any time and anyhow you want. So long as it's about making money, you can cut corners and award fishy contracts and all of that. So as a country, I think we are at a point where we need to really sit down, reflect, and see how we can enforce our laws. I believe if any government would want to truly and honestly enforce our laws, we would get to a point where people would start complaining about, the government being brute, the government being, high-handed and all of that. But that is what would develop this country. Until we get to that point, I don't know what will happen, because, like I said, every aspect, every spectrum of society, the indiscipline is all over. The lack of rule of law is all over. People abusing the law. And because it is money, I would do it. And the police officer, because it is money, maybe I can tip him or her off.
Right.
And it's just...
Recently, there was a long vehicle that got stuck under one of our overpasses. I'm sure you saw the video and all of that.
Yes.
Creating huge traffic and all of that. And if the regulations were working, it wouldn't even load to that height, because we know most of these are 4.5 or 5 meters. Yet this person had done what he had done. And until that happens, where our infrastructure is getting affected, I mean, it's situation normal. We have Aaron reacting to this. He says, loaded vehicles on the street pose a danger and possible cause of accidents. And he enumerates a number of things. 1, lack of obeying road rules or road regulations. 2, lack of vigilance on the part of the MTTU to enforce laws on road users. And 3, a lack of proper education on the avoidance of overloading. But this is where we find ourselves, Suleimana. Let's make tracks.
It's all about enforcing the law, yeah.
Right. The Daily Guide newspaper, 15 assemblies blow 1.87 million Ghana cedis. Find the details there on page 3. Mahama is new ECG boss, not the other Mahamas, not the one in parliament and not the former president, but there's a new ECG boss. But what do you think about this one? Interesting. PPBS, the Police Professional Standards Bureau, probes dofsu husband snatcher. So here are some details. The case in which a female dofsu officer is alleged to have snatched the husband of a complainant has attracted swift attention by the police administration. In a new development, some 2 other complainants have revealed the ordeal they went through at the hands of some female dofsu officers at the same office. One of the complainants, name withheld, said she reported a case of abuse against her husband to the Tema dofsu 5 years ago, with pictures of a swollen face and bruises. She said after giving out the details of her husband, the female police officer who was then handling the case called the complainant's husband to report to the station. So interesting dynamics, especially in this case where a dofsu officer supposedly has snatched someone's husband. Oh yeah, the asema by how. Your quick take.
Well, I think it's an interesting development, and it's great that the police administration has taken up the matter to investigate it. Sometimes these things, when they are reported and you don't get the real details, you may draw wrong conclusions. Police officers, as far as I know, are very professional people, and sometimes the kinds of things they may do to be able to unravel developments and unravel whatever they have to get to be able to resolve issues. For those of us who are sitting outside, we may sometimes even think that they've put themselves in positions of compromise. So it's important that professional investigations are conducted, so that at the end of the day, if indeed the officers did something wrong, they can then be sanctioned. But it may also turn out that, look, the complainants were expecting some level of brute force on the persons against whom the complaints were filed, but they perhaps saw that, no, we are not seeing that. Right. The officer, who is a lady, is talking to my husband in a way that doesn't suggest that she is dealing with the suspect in the way that I want. And so I would rather file a complaint that this is what is happening. So I think we have to take it seriously, because if it is true, that is really unfortunate, and it will really undermine efforts to protect the rights of women. And as I said, we can only draw conclusions when investigations are concluded and the findings made known.
Okay. Let's wrap with these three stories. Get your quick bites on them in about 2 minutes, and it's a wrap. The first one, road crash deaths hit 943 in 4 months. That's in the Finder newspaper. 8.8% decline compared with the 1,034 fatalities in 2021 at around the same time. 943 in 4 months. There's also, I support free SHS, but it's time to review the policy. And that's according to Archbishop Palmer Buckle. The final one, some analysts are talking about our economy. That's in the BNFT. Inflation, not e-levy, tops concerns of most investors. They are concerned more with inflation than the e-levy. There's also Palmer Buckle saying free SHS good, but time for a review. And the other one in the Republic, the other story actually, road crashes. Your quick takes.
Well, I think for me, what's critical is the free SHS issue. It's a very important national intervention. It certainly has significant implications for the future of this country in terms of educating our young people and all of that. But it's also critical that it is implemented in a way that truly serves the purpose for which it was introduced. My worry since the initiative was introduced was how government introduced the policy and through actions made it too political to the point where head teachers, headmasters, school authorities were literally gagged. And this is real. Anybody who denies this is just being partisan and being overly political with the issue. If you have friends and colleagues who have the awards or children in secondary schools and you go for PTA meetings and all of that, you know what happens. You know what the teachers tell you. You know the complaints that they have, and they will tell you, but these are matters that we cannot speak up on. These are matters that we cannot make public. Well, it is up to you. We wouldn't call this PTA dues, but you guys should take steps and ensure that your wards or your kids get better conditions and so on and so forth. So it's a great policy, but because it was made as though it is the personal property, the personal thing of a party or a president, it ended up making it difficult for individuals to share their perspectives. Because I remember the president even complaining when Joy FM decided, look, let's give the microphone to individuals to share their experiences with free SHS. The president calls that a campaign against free SHS policy. So how do we have a national policy of such significance and yet people cannot discuss it? People cannot talk about it. The downsides of it cannot be raised, because if you raise it, it is taken to mean that you are doing a campaign against the policy. I think that what may eventually kill free SHS is that decision to gag people over it, that decision to make people go mute over it and look on whether things are going well or not well. As a country, we all need to embrace it, discuss it. What amendments do we have to make? What changes have to happen so that in the end, even if it turns out that, look, let us prioritize a certain section of the population to benefit from the program so that those who can pay and those who cannot pay are supported. That is the way to go. But the way things are now, that everybody should be quiet. If you raise any concern, it means that you are against free SHS. It's extremely unhelpful. And as I said, that is what may bring the free SHS program to an end.
Sule, thank you so much, Mr. Brima. I love interacting with you because of your bluntness. We're grateful that you joined us this morning. And that is Suleimana Brima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, joining us. Sports is up next, but before we go, today happens to be the birthday of Christabel Na Amanua Solomon. Christabel Na Amanua Solomon. Says today is your special day. We wish you the very best. May God bless you with every good gift. His choicest blessings. Do have a fantastic day. I'll be reaching out. Up next, sports.